He's like, all right, cool, man. So do you mind if I put dog collars, electric shock dog collars on your arms? I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, it'll be funny. I'm like, but are you going to put it outside my clothes? He's like, no. We're going to put it underneath your clothes so nobody knows it's there. And then we're just going to shock you. I'm like, why?
What?
What's up, you guys? I wanted to try doing an informal intro for this episode, just talking into the camera. I don't know if it's going to be cool or if it'll work, but that's what we're going to try to do. Welcome to this new episode of the show. I know I look probably vastly different. I had a fuck it moment. I went and dyed my hair. I'm sort of in the middle on it still. On one side, it's like I look in the mirror for a second and it looks good, and I turn my head half an inch and I feel like it looks horrible. I really can't decide. But I get a kick out of letting you guys decide and making myself sort of like an experiment sometimes on the show. I remember when I first grew a goatee, half of my audience completely freaked out. And looking back, it ended up becoming sort of just how I looked, and nobody even batted an eye at it. So I figured I'd keep screwing around. It's honestly mostly just for my own amusement. I think it's fucking hilarious. So on this episode of the show, you're gonna see me looking different in a second in the interview with Eric Balfour. By the way, this is low-key like a lost episode. This is an episode I did a little while back. You're gonna see me in a different set. I swear I look and I'm in a different place in every single shot, but we're working on that consistency. And Eric Balfour promoting the new recent show, Country Comfort, which is still on Netflix. It's streaming. He's doing a fantastic job on that show. But we also go back into his vast career. He's been on, if you take a look in the description here, so many different shows and movies. He's had a wide variety of experience, and even some wild experiences growing up, knowing different actors in Hollywood. We talk about his relationship with Brittany Murphy before she passed. He knew her for a very, very long time, since she was young. Quick reminder, if you enjoy the content that you're about to see, please click that subscribe button down below. Also, make sure to hit that little notification bell to get real-time updates about everything that I'm posting. I'm doing podcasts like always still. A little bit less interviews because I've been doing a lot of them over on my Sound Mojo show, Inner Sleeve. And also, it's always about quality over quantity for me now. When I'm gonna bring a guest on, I'm not in a point where I just am trying to fill that seat every single week. I'll wait a week or two even until that seat is filled with somebody who I know is going to entertain you. Listen, it's not a slight against anybody, but it's about quality over quantity. So I have a lot of stuff lined up for the coming months, some stuff lined up with some movie releases that are going to be coming in the coming months. But just know the podcast interviews and with guests are going to be coming just as regularly. Let's scoot over to our guest. Shout out to Eric Balfour for coming on the show, and we'll catch up with you guys after the podcast.
Hey, Eric.
Hey, how you doing, buddy? Let's see.
Doing good. Hey, I see you. How's it going?
Great. I'm good, man. Thank you. I apologize for being late. I was actually getting my first vaccine this morning.
Hey, all good. How you feeling?
Feel fine. Yeah, I feel fine. Yeah, I feel
Good.
fine. I had it timed perfectly. I was like, all right, great. This will work out. And I didn't realize they hold you there for 15 minutes.
Oh, after the vaccine.
Yeah.
Why is that?
I was like, wait, I got to go. They're like, you can't leave. I'm like, but I have to go. I have an appointment. They're like, you can't leave. We have to watch you for 15 minutes. I'm like, I'm sitting in my car. I'm like, oh, okay. I was like, all right. I was like, thank you. All right. So I was like,
worries.
I gotta go. So I apologize.
No, don't worry about it. So they hold you there for 50 minutes to observe how you do after the shot.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But you're not finding any effects from it.
No, I feel fine.
Very cool. Yeah, that's good. I know a lot of people are sort of nervous about it, and there's a lot of, I don't even know what to call it, misinformation, disinformation, because I don't really know what anything is at this point. So how's everything been going otherwise? I know you have a new project coming up.
Yeah. So, Country Comfort comes out on Netflix this Friday, and it's, honestly, it's my dream show. It's funny. It's got comedy, which I don't get to do that often. And it's got music, which is my first love. So
see, I was going to ask that. When did the music come in for you? So it was before the acting.
Yeah. Music for me started as a toddler.
Right.
It was interesting because I didn't really have a family who was really musical. But I just immediately was, obsessed with with Michael Jackson. And I mean, I honestly, I think it probably started there. And I remember there was a documentary. It wasn't even really the music video, which I don't even know if I ever really saw, but the documentary for the making of Thriller, where John Landis was talking about the video, and you had Rick Baker and all the makeup effects. And so I sort of memorized the making of it. And I guess my mom introduced me, but we would sit around, and my favorite movies from the age of like 4 or 5 years old was Flashdance, Footloose, Purple Rain. Purple Rain was like,
right.
I just thought Prince was the coolest thing I'd ever seen.
I just recently saw that for the first time.
Oh my God. It's amazing. Incredible. It's amazing.
Really unique.
Yeah. And then,
it's like a head trip, that movie.
Oh, it was so, it's why, I mean, it's so perfectly dated, and it's still so cool though. Like,
yeah,
it's still like, he was amazing. And then John Travolta and Staying Alive, which was actually the sequel to Saturday Night Fever. And people would be like, oh yeah, the Saturday Night Fever. I was like, I don't know what's Saturday Night Fever. I don't even know what that is.
So you hadn't seen the first one.
Yeah, I was, I just knew that Tony Manero lived in New York and wanted to dance.
Right.
That was all I knew.
So it was always about music in the beginning.
It was always about music. And then, that was what I was in, singing groups and bands, and it was always about music for me. I mean, when I was about 10 years old, I had a friend of the family, he's a little older than me. And they took me to a show at a club that doesn't really exist anymore, in Hollywood. It was sort of where Opium Den was, but before it was Opium Den, and it was the Red Hot Chili Peppers and Guar.
Oh wow, that's an interesting lineup.
And I just that was it. I was like obsessed
from the second you saw it.
Oh yeah. And so, then, and from then on, it was just, there wasn't a time where I didn't want to be making music, and it just sort of worked out where, I had my own bands, and we had a couple record deals and got to record a couple albums, but, the acting became a way, the music career didn't ever really pay the bills.
Right.
And the acting career did. So that sort of took over at a certain point. So to get to, and we've worked on musical shows, we've developed some stuff, and but so to have the opportunity to do a show that is, gets to marry both things is amazing.
That's super cool. No, I mean, it's interesting that music was the first love. I mean, so born and raised in LA, I'll take it.
Born and raised in LA. My grandparents, grew up in Boyle Heights in East LA. And my musicality was an amalgamation of growing up here. I mean,
right.
Obviously for me, like most people who know me know that the Chili Peppers were my favorite brand growing up, and still, I mean, I haven't been, when I heard the news last year that John Frusciante was coming back to the band,
right,
I was like, oh, this is, it was like, I don't even know how to describe, like, it was
Christmas.
The coolest thing I'd ever heard. Yeah, it was like Christmas. It was amazing. So I'm excited to hear that album.
A lot of people had complaints about their last guitarist. His name is escaping me. I mean, I thought he did a good job, but I think it's hard to overstate John's impact.
Hagenfendlinger. I can't pronounce his last name.
Yeah. See, I don't know. I don't know how to say it, but I mean, I got the chance to see them with him live, and he kicked ass. But I mean, like I said,
he's amazing.
John's impact is huge.
Yeah, I mean, no one. I love Dave Navarro as a guitar player. He's amazing. Arik Marshall was amazing, years ago. I mean, Arik Marshall was an interesting one because, like, him and his brother, Lonnie Marshall, had a really cool band. Nutmeg. What was I know the song. I was like nutteen. There was like this weird, it was sort of this very like funk influenced rock thing. A nutty nutmeg fantasy. I can't, God, what was the band called?
I wish I knew. I hate moments like these when I don't know the answer.
Yeah. Weapon of Choice, Loaded. I can't remember. I think it might have been
Cali sort of.
Yeah, it was very, they played at this, there was this great club. It was really kind of a restaurant, but it was down in Inglewood, on La Brea and Cafe Future. And there used to just be like the cool, like if it was like, especially when I was like a young teenager, we would go down there and just see the most amazing like local funk bands. Wise Monkey Orchestra, all these really neat bands back then.
Man, that's so cool. So how exactly does the acting creep in? And I mean, it makes sense to me just without even knowing the answer already, because you're in LA, you're in the music entertainment scene, but paint the picture, if you will.
Well, it was actually pretty funny. So I was in a band. By the time I was 15, I was pretty much taking care of myself and on my own.
Wow.
So I was in this band, and we were rehearsing at this kind of funky rehearsal studio that was just adjacent to an Army Navy surplus store near Vine and Santa Monica.
Okay.
It was kind of, I mean, it was cheap. That's why we went there.
Right.
But then one day we were there rehearsing in our room. And these guys came walking down the hall, and one of them kind of poked his head in, and he looked at me and he said, "Hey kid, you want to come? We're having auditions for a TV show. You want to come audition?" And I was like, "Yo, get away from me, dirty old man."
Yeah. Yeah, but that's kind of what I'm thinking too.
Yeah, but it turns out it was totally legit.
It was legit.
And it was a children's television show for the Disney Channel called Kids Incorporated. And I was like, all right. I walked down there and I read some sides, and there was, I didn't realize it because we were inside, but there was a line around the block of kids auditioning for this thing. So I went and auditioned, and I got it. And I didn't have like an acting agent or manager or anything like that. And so there it was. And I ended up doing this television show, and it was like, movie camp over the summer,
right.
And we were performing, and then there was music in it, and so we'd record the songs first, and then we'd do the show, and next thing I know, a couple years later, that I started having an acting career. So that's how it was.
It sort of stuns me just how many of these opportunities seem to come up when you're just in the right place and you're putting your intentions out there. I mean, but you must have been warned by people that if you're approached by these types of things, it can sometimes not be legit.
Yeah, I mean, look, especially, when I was younger and doing a lot more music, I remember we had me, my friend Brittany Murphy, who sadly passed, our friend Haley Johnson, and our friend Brian Friedman, who's now a really accomplished choreographer. We had a kids singing group together. And I remember we had a couple managers who were just the snakiest of snakes you could imagine. I mean, I think back to we went on these we did these mall tours. We'd go and perform in malls for other kids. And this dude, I remember there was one dude who was so he was
what types of things happened?
I remember one time I must have been I was 14 years old. And we were I think we were in Spokane, Washington, and my parents weren't with me. The other kids' parents were. And so somehow I ended up with this manager guy in his hotel room, and he invited these girls back to his hotel room. And I'm 14.
Right.
And he's selling these girls. He's selling them on yeah, Eric, don't you think they'd be great for the music video? And I'm like, music video, I don't know. Yeah. Sure. I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, oh my God. And thankfully, one of the other parents, just looking out for me, knowing that I was sort of on my own, was roaming the halls of this hotel and finally knocked on his door and found me. It was Haley's mom, Haley, who's still a dear friend of mine. Haley's mom, Nancy, came and was like, "Hey, come on, let's go. You're coming back to the room." I was like,
right.
Okay, well, but the girl, okay. So thankfully, I was, not
So
too far.
these were girls like adult women, or these were
These
girls
were
like
adult women. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
little bit of an odd scene.
it was just, yeah, like, yeah, I had no business being there.
So, but you kept your head above water, so to speak, by having people sort of on the outskirts looking out for you, because that must have been a strange thing. I mean, is that even allowed now to have a kid working at 15 without their parents? I mean, in Hollywood?
I probably not. No.
Yeah, I don't think so. I
I
mean,
mean, the world, you know, like, I mean, the world has changed so much, and in other ways it has. I mean, all the same problems that exist today existed then.
mhm,
Wasn't that long ago. It was only 20 years ago.
right.
So, you know, I had my fair share of shit that you know, but you know, fortunately, you know, it made me who I am, and it's all worked out. It all worked out pretty well. So I'm
Absolutely.
no complaints.
What was your friendship like with Brittany Murphy, and how long exactly were you friends with her?
You know, we grew up together, and you know, she was just, there's nothing bad you can say about Brit. She was just amazing. She was an incredible artist. She was an incredible person. She was, you know, filled up every room that she walked into with light and joy. And you know, it's just, you know, it's sad every day that she's gone, but yeah, she was, you know, we all grew up together, and we all grew up, you know, loving music, and it was what brought us all together.
What do you think is the main commonality between yourself and other people who've reached the same heights of success? Is there any qualities or commonalities that you really find between yourself and those people that you could name?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, not, you know, I guess it depends on your viewpoint, how successful I am or not am. But you know, I think the fact that I've been able to maintain a career and provide for my family, and occasionally get to do something really special like I am right now with Country Comfort.
Yeah.
But the number one thing is I'm definitely not the best looking guy out there. I'm not the most talented. I'm somewhere in the middle of all of these boxes. But the difference between myself and other people like me who have, you know, sort of stuck it out is simply the ability to get up every time you get knocked down. And it's not that it doesn't hurt. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I was on a new show that I was so excited about, and it got canceled 3 weeks into being on the air. Right. Or I didn't get the part that I knew was mine and was going to change everything. Or the movie came out that I was starring in and didn't do well. And somehow, you know, it breaks your heart every time, and you have to figure out a way to get back up, and you call your agent or manager or whoever and say, get me in a room. And you keep fighting. And sometimes it's harder than others, but that's the difference.
Right.
You know,
resilience and the will to keep going.
That is 100% the difference, is being willing to get back up and keep going. And it's not always easy. I understand the people who say at some point, like, yeah, I'm not going to do this anymore. I got to get a regular job and just, you know, I don't want to. Yeah, I get it. Totally get it.
It's a very taxing thing to be in entertainment.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's, you know, it's unlike so many other careers. If you're almost every other, even sports on some levels, which is also, you know, very, you know, hard. Mm-hmm. If you're really good at what you do and you work really hard, most other careers, you will have that career if you want it, you know, even, right. And I use sports because yes, there's lots of talented players, and it's the guys, you know, you think about a Kobe Bryant who went that extra mile, LeBron's who go that extra mile, the Kelly Slaters of the world, you know, talent alone won't get you there, but they worked hard. But, you know, when you think about being a doctor, being a lawyer, like, you go to school, you work hard, and you will be a doctor.
Pretty steady path.
Yeah. You stay with a company, you get a job, you work your way up the ranks, you will have a career in that business. In our business, just because you've had success today does not guarantee success tomorrow.
Yeah.
So it's really hard. I mean, it's like when people ask me like about my son and they say like, oh my God, he's so cute, you're gonna let him get into the business. I'm like, hell no. I don't want his soul to have to deal with the loss and rejection that I've felt. I would much rather him find something else he's passionate about and do that, because it's hard. It's hard.
Would you say that's more common in Hollywood or less common, that a parent in the business would not want their kid to be in the business?
I don't know. I guess from where I'm standing, I can't imagine any parent who would want their kid in this business.
But there seems to be a lot.
But there's a lot. I mean, I think part of it is two things. One is kids look up to their parents and they aspire to be like them if they love them and they're caring, good parents. And the other thing is, I think it's also challenging when your kid comes to you, you know, and I can only imagine. I mean, my son isn't old enough to say this yet, but well, yeah, he is in some ways. When my son is passionate about something, I want him to have it.
Yeah.
You know, he started loving, you know, going out and surfing with me and getting even on a boogie board and going out in the water. I wanted to do it every day.
Right.
I want to encourage his passion, and because there's nothing greater than when you see your kid smiling about something they love doing. It's the best drug in the world.
Right.
And so I would imagine it's hard when they come and say, look, mom, dad, I love doing this and I want to follow in your footsteps. And this is what I want to do with my, I imagine it's hard. You know, I don't think I would, you know, who knows, but I don't think I would stop them, but I would certainly, I would encourage Ollie to do things differently than I did. I would want him to go to school to learn how to be a filmmaker. Okay. I would love, you know, I think when you learn how to write and direct and edit and how to be at cause and in control of your entire creative destiny, it's a very different position than being an actor for hire, for instance.
Right.
And that was something that is, you know, several years ago, I started really putting my energy into, because I was like, I don't want to be at the whim of somebody else's desires. I want to be in control to some degree. And it helped bring some sanity to my life, the more control I was able to take of my financial and creative path.
Less of a feeling of a hired gun, so to speak, for the sake of the project, and more having direction for the project.
Yeah, absolutely. You know,
that's really, I think that must be really important, you know, and thinking of all the projects you've done so many different types of shows, so many different types of projects, you know, I mean, where do you feel, I guess, the most at home, the most comfortable? Is it action, horror?
Well, you know, honestly, the thing I love the most is comedy. It is, you know, the fun thing about when I was doing Haven the last few years was that my character got to be funny, but it's always been my dream. You know, I love that comedies, they lighten you up. They lighten, you know, look, when your job is to make people laugh, it can only have positive effects on your soul.
Definitely. Like, good time.
There's no way around it. You know? So oddly enough, that is what I love the most. I guess I don't know if it was because I wasn't very funny or I exceeded at the dramatic stuff maybe more, but if it were up to me, I love romantic comedies. I love comedy. I love, you know, I mean, I look at guys like Seth Rogen and what, you know, Judd Apatow films, and I'm in awe of their timing and even going back before we started shooting Country Comfort, I went back and I started watching a bunch of like old sitcoms.
Right.
Like Cheers and Family Ties, and the original Roseanne episodes. And what I found was amazing about all of those shows was that while they were really funny, they were also really sincere. They had a heart. And so the moments, you know, when the Keaton family and Family Ties had real shit going on, it was real. When John Goodman and those kids fought and something heavy happened on that sitcom, it was real. Definitely. So that's been, you know, it was one of my favorite parts that Karen Lucas, the creator of Country Comfort, really allowed us to do, because there were moments where, yeah, I mean, her comedy is very fast and it's very kind of like bouncy. but and with that, you would kind of think like, oh, it's going to be a more of a lighter show. But really, when it came down to the moments of sincerity, she was all in on it being real and having fun to sit and breathe, and so it was really fun, you know. And I hope I honestly hope people love it and love, you know, my character Boone, and they keep me around for a long, long time, because I couldn't be happier doing this show. It's so good.
That's so cool. It's really exciting, obviously. I saw you on the Eric Andre show. Very cool. I mean, I love that show. I love Eric.
That's my dude.
He's the man. You know, I think a lot of people wonder what it's like when you as a guest went to do that show. Can you tell me that?
Yeah. So what was interesting, so I met Eric. I sold an idea to Fox. That was basically when Fox was doing some digital programming. They wanted to do like 10-minute episodes. We sold them this idea called Inland Empire, which was basically a modern day Spinal Tap. Okay. And it was about a band. And instead of it being about a documentary crew following the band, basically the band hired a bunch of friends to create their own reality show.
Gotcha.
They were morons. And so Eric was, you know, one of the guys in the band, and he was just he's ridiculously funny. And so when he started doing his show, he said, well, you know, you got to come be a guest on the show. And I was like, great, cool. That sounds fun. And I didn't know much about what he was doing. And then, so I show up the day of the filming. He's like, all right, cool, man. So, do you mind if I put dog collars, electric shock dog collars on your arms? I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, it'll be funny. I'm like, but are you going to put it outside my clothes? He's like, no. We're going to put it underneath your clothes so nobody knows it's there. And then we're just going to shock you. I'm like, why?
What?
And I was like, okay, I don't know why I said yes. I was just like, all right, go with it. So I've got electric shock dog collars on my arms that they're just zapping me with for no apparent reason. And then they had a pipe above me, right above the set line, with water dripping on me the whole time. But just constantly had water.
Just an open pipe. Forehead.
Just a pipe out of water just dripping on me. And then in between the breaks, the makeup artist, I didn't realize it until after the first time, came over to, like, you know, powder my face so I wasn't sweating because I'm dripping on, I've got shocks.
Right.
And she wasn't powdering my face with powder. She was putting menthol under my eyes. So literally, it was
crying.
It was literally being tortured for an hour.
So that's why you look like you were crying, because I was like, I don't know if this is a genuine cry or.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, it basically, you just sign up to get tortured by Andre, and that's it.
So they kind of tell you some of the gags, but they don't tell you all of the gags.
Yeah. They don't.
What a beautiful show.
There's something amazing, you know, it's perfect. It's just perfect.
What about something like Texas Chainsaw Massacre? I mean, a scene where you get killed with an axe sort of in the back of your neck. What is it like to film a scene like that?
It was painful.
It
actually was painful. So every time I remember doing it, I still remember this. Every time I got hit with the thing, I had to fake like getting hit.
Right.
Well, it's not that big emotion. You're like, you know, like that. But you do that like 40 or 50 times in a day. Like I went home to the hotel that night and I had like the worst neck pain and headache. And I had actually, as it turns out, they had a doctor come the next day. I had given myself like a mild concussion.
Oh, just from moving forward many times.
Yeah, just like banging my head against the air so many times that I'd given because I started throwing up in the middle of the night and I was like, what's going on? So yeah,
man, how many injuries have you sustained while filming?
I don't know, a few.
Is it
there's always something?
More?
Yeah, there's always stuff. I mean, every time you do like a fight scene or something, like there's constantly like, even if it's like you're just like being dragged along a carpet, like, you know, you get dragged along a carpet on your elbows 40 or 50 times, you end up with these like gnarly rug burns. You're like, I don't remember that hurting, but God, it's everywhere now. It's pretty wild.
So it takes a toll on you physically, because I guess there's only so much you can fake if you're doing a really physical scene.
It's like guys who wrestle, I guess, you know, it's like,
right.
I mean, they know the outcome, I guess, but there's only so many ways to fake being thrown off a ladder.
Right. That makes sense. Is there any stunt that you wouldn't do, or are you just in for sort of any stunt?
Anything with snakes.
Anything but snakes? Yeah.
Yeah.
Count me in on that one.
Big thanks to my guest, Eric Balfour, for stopping by the podcast. Definitely cool to have him on and hear about his wide range of experience, man. He's been through a lot. One thing I learned about acting, it's nowhere near, I think it's probably, there's no other career that comes across as being easier than acting and is actually very difficult. It comes across as probably the easiest job a person could have, but it's very, very, very challenging. Even to act something that you would think is simple. So I digress. I have a lot to say. It's been a while since I did one of these intros and outros. But listen, thanks for tuning into the podcast. And if you enjoyed it, click that subscribe button down below with the notification bell on YouTube to get real-time updates. Of course, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher Radio. I'm all over the place. Anywhere you can find a podcast, you can find me. And follow me on social media for all the exciting stuff coming out. That's at Cassius Morris on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You guys know the deal. At Cassius Show on all those platforms as well for just show updates. And that's about it, guys. Until next time, thanks for tuning in. Rock on.